Good morning, people. Good morning. What a beautiful day it is today. I'm sitting out on the gazebo. Yes, today is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, and the time right now is 11:02 a.m. Yeah, the orientation didn't turn out right, but I can't. I gotta change it. So I have it on portrait rather than landscape. Oh well. So anyway, I want to talk about some sensitive issues here. I want to talk about this world's going really getting out of hand. I was watching some videos today on YouTube and horrific. I don't know when the incident happened. I want to try to bring in different stories. Like I'm going to mention about that happened in Nigeria. And I want to talk about this other discussion about Africa. What is African? Whose land is what? And then last, I'm going to talk about, kind of tie everything in, that something is not about just a particular race or ethnic group, that it's something that can happen in any part of the world. Talk about this YouTuber that I just started watching today for the first time. And he was born in Australia, but both of his parents are Vietnamese. And his experience returning to Vietnam as an adult. He's in his 20s, about, I think, 26 or 27 years of age. And the things that happened to him. And so you have a collective, you have people, and people are experiencing things. And I think up front, what people are experiencing is fear, the fear of not having. Or when someone fears that there's a lack of resources, sometimes they could turn on you and hurt you in some way. It could be physically, it could be like they don't want to do any work, they don't feel like they have to do anything. And maybe that's what happened. I mean, I don't know. I'm only speculating. What happened to me about 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah, I had to get rid of the keeper, even though he was spoken to numerous times by management. And then he did a no-no. And they even said, management, that, you could, forgive him, whatever. And I thought, if it was just a work thing, but when you cross that boundary, and when you're being a peeping Tom, when I catch you in the act, and I'm a woman, and I live alone, that is not a good thing. So either way, I'm very grieved about what's happening on the continent. Yeah, I live in Rwanda. It's a beautiful place, beautiful weather. I think now we're into dry season, so it hasn't rained, I think, in 3 or 4 days. So I'm taking advantage by sitting out in the gazebo, and it's nice getting some fresh air just to relax a little bit. So let me begin. Okay, it's a plane or a helicopter. I should say helicopter. Just a moment. Must getting louder. Oh, Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not going to compete with that. Yeah, it was people are being, and it's scary because I live on the continent. One thing, I'm from America, I'm from New York City. And one thing, when you live in a place like America, it's back, back in the day, you would see things on Africa. And because it's across an ocean, you don't feel threatened. But when you start living on the continent, I've been living here now a year and a half, things are closer to home, and it could be a little spooky. Well, nice bird, let me get that. Oh, it just flew away. Okay. So it's a different feeling now that when you're living on the continent and you don't want to ruffle feathers, you don't want to say the wrong thing because you're not in your native born land. Now, I moved to Africa as going back to my roots, the motherland, the continent. But what is Africa? Even the name Africa is not an African name, but a European, I think a Greek. So some of us may say, oh, we're African, but the name itself is not from an African person. I'm just saying, so you have names that are given to regions. And what is the origin of those names? And then you have people. And people migrate. The human species has migrated to every continent. And as time goes on, we start to have different identities based on, location, or maybe by clan, a family surname, or name of a continent, anything. Borders are man-made, and borders change over time. I remember, I'm kind of getting off the top, but it's all related. I remember meeting, I used to work at a resort. I had this European, she was born and raised in Europe. She's from Czechoslovakia. And she was telling me about, after World War II, now, I'm older than her, so of course she's not born at that time, but she's telling me the story. She said that the borders of that location had changed during, after the war. And after World War II, the borders from Czechoslovakia changed, and part of it went to Germany or something. They reshifted the border lines, the borders. And she told me a story that there was a house, and the house used to be, from the old border, and then it got part of the new rulers. And guess what happened? She was telling me. She said the winning group over the war came, went to the house, and says, you got to leave now. This is our property now. This is ours. And they couldn't do anything. And they had to leave their house. Who knows how many centuries or, how long they've been in that house. But it was their house. But the land now, off their own property. I think that story is related to this one. Okay, so with regard to Nigeria, I heard that Nigeria, and any of you who's listening, if you know when this happened, You have factions in Nigeria. And there was a massacre. I think they said 200 people were slaughtered. Oh my God. I think it's called the African News Network. Yeah, I'm getting more news on Africa now that I live in Africa. I mean, I watch my YouTube channels, from America, but I'm still being, I guess being more sensitized because it's reading, the algorithms are reading you, what you've looked at in the past. And I'm curious about certain countries in Africa. And so now I'm getting newsreels from, YouTube channels from Africa or about Africa. And they're very graphic. Things like this, they wouldn't be showing in America. It's something. America sanitizes the news. But when you leave the continent, no- you know, the American mainland, you see a lot of stuff. I visited Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is owned by the U.S. It's a territory, and I was there one weekend many years ago, and oh my goodness, they showed extreme graphic corpses of an infant that was in a trunk of a car. It was the unaliving of a child, an infant. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So yeah, when you go outside the U.S. for news, they don't hold anything back. So anyway, this news channel showed a video clip of a man. He was a real big guy too, real big, tall African fellow, dark complexion, muscle. Looks like he lifts weights. I mean, really stacked. He's wearing all white, and he's, I guess, running for some type of office. Some like he's someone who, what do you call it when you, activist? That's the word. That's the word. He's an activist, and he goes to some site and where this massacre happened. I don't know whether it just happened over the weekend, and there were bodies. You wouldn't even you didn't realize that there were human bodies because they were charred. They might have been ablaze or something. And you just see like ash spots, like ashes, like a shadow. Those were where the bodies were. Oh my God. They said over 200 people, something like that, 200. And he's like trying to stay cool. This guy, why he's wearing all white. And they say, I mean, it's like everybody's wearing regular clothes. They're all wearing Western clothes. But he decides at a massacre, and what it looked like that he's using psychological, because white color in many cultures as purity, innocence, right? And he's wearing this, I mean, entire white. I wouldn't even want to wear something like that at it'll get dirty, it's a crime scene. And he's walking into these little structures that were destroyed and the people inside. Wow. And then the next video I saw, now I don't know what caused that, but one faction destroying another faction in Nigeria. horrific. You know, it's not the first time these atrocities in Nigeria. You know, because I've met many Nigerians, and they're in United States, in New York. I've met them. I've worked with them. And so it's shocking for me to see the people who are living in Nigeria about acts of violence and political unrest. It's very confusing to me because I know Nigerians. So anyway, they were saying, "Oh, look at that bird! They're growing it. They're making a nest." So they had, sorry, yeah, the birds are nest here, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I lost train of thought. I'm sorry. I know we just talked about the the person in Africa, wearing all white. My apology. It'll come to me, people. It'll come to me. Okay, I remember. About who is an African. Yeah, so it was another clip. And it was about South Africa. Or I remember, back up a little bit, Nigeria. Shoot. I don't know why mine is doing this. Oh, you remember the group, it was in 2014, and they kidnapped, I think it was over 400 minors, little, girls. They were going to school, Boko Haram, and then they stormed the school for girls, kidnapped them. And some of them got out. They said, if you don't convert to their faith system, we'll kill you. So you convert and marry me. When the girls got out, when the girls had to submit to that, but she later escaped to something. She had a baby. She had a baby by this creep. And unfortunate in this community where she was able to get back home. And they rejected her. Because, oh, you had a baby with the captor. Oh, you don't belong here. Could you believe that? A minor. And she is SA'd. She had no choice. And you're going to take out on her and the baby. People, when you do things like that young girl needs your help and the community, and you're going to reject her and take it out on the kid? This is evil. It's evil what the man did, but I think it's double evil for her so-called community to turn their back on her. And she escaped. You brace your own. See how the human psyche is really screwed up these days. It's evil. We are becoming evil in our behavior. We're not caring what we do or say to others. So either way, okay, going on. I just had to remember that story. That was 14 about Boko Haram. And you never heard any news. That's major. A kidnapping of 400 females, all students, children. They were children. And the media didn't follow on it. Whatever happened to those girls? Obama and Mrs. Obama? Nothing. Initially, they said something, but they never followed up on it. See that? Because it really, and let me not say anything, but that was it. Wow, you would think because He was the president at that time, Obama, that he would speak about it a little bit more. Oh, I seen that little bird. Look at that. He got a little feather in his mouth. Look at that. Look at that. I don't know what type of bird that is. If anyone knows, please tell me. Okay. Sorry. I think why I'm doing that because the subject that I'm talking about is a little heavy for me. And it kind of distracts me and makes me feel better when I see nature, the beautiful birds and, oh, look like, look at that. It just distracts me a little bit. It just makes me feel that there's hope. See, when you see that, they're building a nest. And when I think little nest, I think of life. I think of a future. And that's why I'm showing this right now. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I want hope. That's why I show it. It gives me a feeling of hope that there's a new generation that's going to come. Mama Bear here. Mama Bear is prepared for her new family. Okay. There's hope. That's why I show that. It's hope. There's a new. The animals know there's a future. That's why they're building a nest. Okay. So either way, so I think that President Obama, would have really done something to help those girls. You have American military all over the world because of something allegedly happening, even if it's not happening, right? So go figure. Whatever happened to the girls? 400. Do any of you have children? What if it was one of your girls? Your niece? Your granddaughter? Happened in times. Kidnapping girls because you don't think that they should learn how to read and write. Could you believe this? People's belief system. What? Only certain gods allow girls to learn how to read and write? Isn't the responsibility of women, we carry life in our womb. And that woman who's carrying a baby in the womb, she needs wisdom, knowledge, and truth to nurture to that next generation. So you have future, like that little bird I showed you with a feather in its mouth, so it's building a nest, right? Even birds have common sense. You nurture, prepare for your future. But when you take girls and you kidnap them, you brutalize them, what future does that next generation have? And when kids born through SA, that trauma is going into that baby. So you're creating a SA culture in their mindset. That's a dangerous mindset. That could be very dangerous. Let's stop this violence, okay? So either way, so in South Africa now, there was another video I saw, and this one was really interesting. It's a man talking about that basically Africa is for Africans, and that these Europeans that came into South Africa were visitors. It's not their land, and that they should leave because it's not their true home. So there was someone that responded, and I think it was like a court, some official discussion. They had authorities there. And they asked him, so are you saying that the whole continent is acre? Because he said that the continent is a country. So he says, well, are you saying that all the people here are from one country then? Something like that. See what can happen, people. Okay. You have all different types of people that live on the continent. He's saying there's basically people, one continent, one people. And if you're not originally from the continent, you're a foreigner in essence, and they should leave. But there was a story. See, what he's saying could really screw him over, this leader. Okay, let me tell you this story. So we have to be, we have to be careful what we say on television and stuff like that. So he's saying this political person in South Africa saying basically Africa for Africans, get rid of the whites, they don't belong here, blah, 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 blah. And that they're all, free movement for Africa, for Africans to travel. It sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds good on paper. It sounds good. But this is what happened, people. See, there was another video, and this is all recent. A person, the husband is from a neighboring country in South Africa. I mean, in the southern part of Africa. But his wife is a black South African. They married. The husband has a business. I think he has children. And I almost forgot. The husband was physically born in South Africa. He is a black man. Both of his parents are black, but they're from a neighboring country originally. But because his mother was a native South African, the father was from the neighboring country, but the man was physically born in South Africa, where they have like a vigilante group. People who put law in their own hands. That's in South Africa. So they ordered the man out of his home and said he's a foreigner. See, he had a business. He knew business. Business was in his house. And even though he showed them proof that he is a native-born South African and that his mama is a South African, but his father was not from South Africa. But because of the man's father, he is being kicked out by this vigilante group. They took his house, took his business, and nothing. Yeah, South Africa is going through some hardships. They don't have, there's a lot of unemployment. And yes, they said that in South Africa you have many different nationalities from the African continent of black Africans living in the country of South Africa. And unfortunately, some of these migrants into the country of South Africa, some of them are doing illegal things like selling drugs. And many of them are getting money by selling drugs to guess who? Native South Africans. And it's horrible. And so they want to get back at the so-called migrants, their black brothers from other neighboring countries of origin. And they're removing them. They're trying to confiscate these people. Now, rightly so, someone's selling drugs. They're selling drugs to native South Africans. But to remove someone from their home because of who, women, another plane. Sorry. Let me get a drink. Sorry about that. But because, see, what can happen, people? See, they're setting themselves up for failure. You're announcing to the world that South African blacks have a right to remove the whites that are living there, and they're even going further and removing a black who is not born there. And even further, even if you were born there and have a black South African mom, they now say if the father is not a native South African, we can take away your rights, we can take away your land, we can take away your business, and you're on the street. Isn't that awful? So you see how the borders, how they start to blur and change? What they've said, what they've been doing the same thing. His father was a South African, but the mother is something else. See, I have a feeling it wouldn't make a damn difference. They said, we perceive you as a foreigner. Because of that, even though you have paperwork that proves you are native born, and you got a black South African mama, we're going to take away your rights. And this is a vigilante group. They're not part of the government. These are just people who, they're the poor. These are the poor of South Africa, poor South African blacks. Okay, so now you have that when it's convenient, you can change the laws again. Like in history, people change borders of countries. Now you can change the who, the classification, who's what. Who's a South African? What is the new requirement? They can take people are taking away people's rights. Benefits them. So when someone is crying because they cannot support themselves, it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah, I know what it's like to not have a job. I know it's like to not be able to pay your rent, or the fear of not being able to pay your rent. It is horrible. I've had this a big part of my life, those people who know me and my family. It's a horrible feeling. You get depressed, and you're really trying to get a job, keep a job. But when the rules are being changed, and by just a gang, basically they're just people who came together, who had a common grievance. What's the grievance? Poverty. And they're blaming people for their poverty. And it's making people become judge, jury, and executioner. It is very frightening. People who, let's say, you might have played with, school with, the economy changes, and then you become enemies. Hey, you're from this tribe, or you're from that tribe. Or, well, your mother wasn't born in the country. Or, well, your father wasn't born in the country. And you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What is Africa? Who are Africans? Who are they? So this from South Africa that is talking to an audience, and they want to make this new movement. Basically, one united Africa. It sounds nice. It does sound nice. And I'm all for unity. But is it really about unity? Or is it about communism to try to, or we call the New World Order, make a one world, one governance, one control. And now they're doing this for the African continent because Africa is a continent, not a country. You can't go from one country to another in Africa without your passport or whatever agreement that that country has. You can't just enter the country. Whether you're native born, whatever, I can't go to any place I feel like going to. I need permission. I need my passport or whatever documents or visas. Yeah, that's another thing that's being discussed about visas. This famous YouTuber from West Africa, he was interviewing this gentleman. I don't remember the country or what, but he was complaining that he had to pay. Now, he did paperwork and he was to go. And I think upon arriving at the destination, they asked him a question or something. So he answered, and then they said, you have to pay $200 extra, you and your partner. Wow. So people are getting angry at other nations. And it's about fleecing people or punishing certain nationals because of their nationality. The paperwork was done, entered the country with that document, and then they wanted to question him further and demand it. So he was saying he was very upset. He's talking to this famous YouTuber, black YouTuber from West Africa. He says, I only budgeted, coming here for X amount. That extra money, $400, 400 American equivalent. Now he can't use it for the things that he had allowed it for. So, famous YouTuber said, I'll pay for, I'll have a place for you to stay, you know. So that was nice of him. See, things are getting out of hand. People are taking out their frustration, taking law into their own hand. If you have a set of laws, these are your laws. And whether someone has to pay for a visa, be upfront about what you have to pay or not pay. But now you're going to use it to see people know that you may be going to different countries because of business opportunities, maybe school, whatever. They don't want you to benefit. So it's like, it's extortion. It's extortion. See, people have a choice. Okay, this is what the visa is. Either you want it, you pay for it. If you don't want it, then go to another country, right? But now they're holding things over people's heads. And they're not being very nice. Why I talk about this? Well, I'm living on the continent. I'm living here on the continent. Things happening on the neighboring countries. And people change. People can change overnight. Who you might be talking to today, you might even go to the same church. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? People can change. And people can take sides. Like in America, based on who you voted for, they can hold that against you. Marriages were in conflict because of politics. There's always been things, election year. Never heard of people want to divorce their spouse because of an election coming up. These officials, they're all buddies. And it's not all what you think that you see. They're not enemies. And then to feel like you need to take it out on your spouse Oh, you better not vote for this person, or you better that person. Come on, people. You're gonna have war in your own house or your own bedroom. They have you under their spell. It's like spirit of war and chaos that is plaguing us. It's plaguing us. It's deceiving us. We have to stop this behavior, people. It's not fair. It's not fair. Please don't get suckered in this. Yeah, I'm very concerned since I moved on the continent. Because now you're saying, okay, all Africa is one people. So if all of Africa, according to that South African man, if they're all one people, then how come South Africa discriminated against that black man? And even though he has a black South African mom and born in South Africa, they took his property, his land, his business, so he cannot do commerce. So if you're going to say that Africa's one people, then there's open book. Then you're saying this individual from South Africa. Then you are saying that any migrant from a black migrant from an African country can enter your borders. But we know that's not true because they're getting rid of them. So you can't play ways saying that Africa's one country, then if it's one country, then there's no migrants. They're all one people, but we know they're not one people. There are many different tribes. There are many people with identity. They speak different languages. They have different religions. South Africa, you're screwing yourself. You're saying publicly that Africa's one people and that they can go into any country in Africa, and including South Africa where you live. And then you could do business. But that's not what's happening. People, let's stop the violence. You've been manipulated. And this one world government is trying to take over planet and having people hurt each other. People, siblings fighting, husband, wives fighting, neighbors fighting, districts fighting, all because of politics. And what is this politics really about? Resources. Land is a resource. Money is a resource. Cattle is a resource, etc. And the fear of not having those resources, or you don't have those resources, cause conflict and fear and chaos. Let's learn to work together. Don't fall for these crafted events that's happening in your community. It's all crafted. Getting thugs to invade communities and light it on fire like they did in Nigeria. God have mercy on us. Please have mercy on us. Let's stop the insanity. Okay? This is Spirit Journey signing off. Bye-bye.